Okay, so to start off, we're going to do the living room, which is right when you come in off the entryway. And the house itself was built in 1928. It has only had about, I believe, 3 owners in total. And it was actually designed by a woman architect, which is very unusual for that time period. We did some research at the archives, and it turns out that her husband had passed away, and she needed to find a way to help make money and support her 2 children. So she was able to design this house, and actually the one across the street from us, and she was able to use her husband's best friend's name, since women back then weren't allowed to work. So it's sort of a cool little detail. And about the house, or this room I should say, so I really love older things, vintage things. I really try and incorporate vintage elements into my space. I think having them around just honestly makes me feel good. Something about all of the lives that they've lived before they came to me, I find really comforting. Okay, so the first vintage element in this room is this large book, this periodical that you can see that's underneath my coffee table. It is actually all of the New York Times from the month of August for the year 1936. The second vintage element in this room, you can see all of those white vases or bowls. Those are all of my grandmother's milk glass that she collected. They were very popular throughout the Depression era. So I've used those there in a display next to some books. And lastly, not really vintage per se, but my favorite element in this room are those 4 framed photos you can see above the fireplace. They are actually National Geographic magazine covers, and each one, left to right, top to bottom, represent a special month and year in our lives as a family. So the top one is my husband's, the issue from the month and year he was born, then the month and year I was born, the month and year we got married, and then the month and year my son was born. So this was just a creative way for me to incorporate our love of reading and knowledge in this space in a way that also was able to showcase it as art. Okay, next up off the entryway is our kitchen and dining area. This is our dining table. My husband also uses it as sort of a backup office, so his computer is around. That's a painting that we bought together on a trip to Italy, so that one's very special to both of us. And then if you move over here, I should mention the house has kind of a funky layout since it's been renovated a few times. This actually used to be outdoors. You can kind of tell it was like a porch. And it's now, well, it was a bar area, like a sitting bar area. My husband loves, that's an oil painting of steak. So clearly my husband picked that one out. Now we just use it as a sitting area. And then of course, when baby 2 arrives, then he can be nearby the family while we have meals together. Okay, next up, this is my very favorite vintage piece that I have in the whole house. It is just off of the dining room. You can see our table there again. And if you were born in the 80s, you know what this is. This is a library card catalog that I was able to save from the Long Beach Library here in California. And it's just a real special piece to me because I am able to repurpose it in different ways, which is also why I love vintage things so much. So the top half of my card catalog is for me. It houses only wine, so 1 bottle of wine fits in each drawer. Also, you're able to pull out sort of these trays, which is where you would write the Dewey Decimal number down if you were using this as a card catalog. If we have friends come over and they have small children, there are all different types of new toys and trucks and crayons and things for kids to use in that very bottom. And then at the very top is my typewriter. It's over 100 years old. That one is also very special. Okay, and then if you turn around, so now the card catalog I just showed you is at my back. This is our kitchen. This is the requisite photo wall. If you want to see what we looked like when we got married, that's up there. And also this is my little desk. So this is where I answer emails, do schedule coordinating, and that is a vintage stained glass piece from a church that I was able to salvage. So I really, as you can tell, like the old stuff, but that's sort of our space. I will say it's not usually this clean. Usually there's a bunch of sort of detritus and random things thrown on top, but it just looks so much better clean. So I thought I'd show it to you guys that way. Next up, my son's room. I can't believe that that's plural. I will have 2 sons soon. But our house is only 2 bedrooms. So when we found out we were pregnant with our second, that meant the boys are gonna have to share a room. So here's our room. This is where baby brother will sleep. We like to sail, so a little picture of a sailboat. My older son, Grant, picked out these little shelves. We're in the process of decorating them. He's very involved, loves them. Love plants. They bring, life to the space, I think. So have that. boys will share a dresser, of course. More plants. Oh, also love that birth poster. It's so great. I'm gonna get one on the other side when this other baby is born. Books. Nice chair for reading. And then my older son, Grant, his bed over here. And he designed this little gallery wall of excavators and tractors with me. He helped pick out his pictures. So if you guys have boys, you totally, I'm sure, can relate to your knowledge of construction trucks has been increasing. So I'll do some pictures on the next slide of what this room looked like before, but this is how it's going to look now to house 2 boys. Last room, I wanted to show you guys sort of our den, basement, rec room, playroom area. If we lived back east, this would probably be a basement, but since we live in Southern California, it's a sunroom. So we have a screened-in, walled-in sunroom that I repurposed into an adult space right here. So we'd hang out. When the adults come over, this is where we can have drinks, chat, and catch up. And then if you just follow me here to my right, this is now the play area. So we have books, art, supplies, all kinds of things for the kids to play with. And then that door does go outside to a little patio space that we've put turf down so kids can play. So I mentioned this is kind of a funky layout. Yes, that is a fireplace. Not all children have fireplaces in their playrooms. But the owners used to be fishermen. We live near the water. And this was actually where they baked bread right under the G. And then the stove was actually a cooking fireplace. The second owner came along and then walled in this to make it a section of the house. And he had this room as a tool area. So that is pegboard that he hung actual tools on. And I have repurposed that into sort of a vertical garden wall. And then all of those things in the middle are my son's art supplies. So that way he can't quite reach them. The sitter or myself need to grab them, things that he needs supervision to use. So the space has worked out to be really multifunctional and we love it. Hey mamas, it's Jen. I hope that you enjoyed my quick little home tour with Everyday Mamas. And I wanted to just jump on real quick and say 2 things. 1, my house is not always that clean. I did have the help with the sitter to help clean it up. And 2, I am admittedly kind of a hot mess today. So long story short, I ended up going to labor and delivery last night. I'm almost 39 weeks pregnant because the baby was not acting as typical. So I was a bit worried. I was up almost all night. I came home to my toddler sick, and then I got into a disagreement with my husband all before 8 a.m. So I mention this because all of that is a part of motherhood. So sometimes your house looks nice and clean, like mine might have done in those earlier slides, but also there's the hot mess that's going on today. So I just wanted to say that so that way no one compares that their playroom is not clean. Mine is not usually clean either. It was just for today. And also, if that message resonates with any of you guys, we would love for you to check out our podcast and connect with Laura Schulte and I over at generation.mom. And if you guys have any questions about any of the products or things that I bought, feel free to go ahead and DM us. All right, thanks.